A shocking move from Camilla has rocked the royal family. Sources reveal she manipulated a key decision that blindsided Prince William and left King Charles in tears. Was this a strategic play for power or a betrayal from within? The truth behind palace doors is finally coming to light. Camilla's strategy begins a palace power play. It didn't happen overnight. Camilla Parker Bowles had been slowly, carefully, and quietly building her influence, not just over King Charles, but within the royal system itself. What started decades ago as a discreet romantic involvement evolved into something far more complex: political positioning. While many assumed Camilla would take a back seat after her 2005 marriage to Charles, insiders say the opposite happened. She knew what rooms mattered, one former aide shared. She didn't speak loudly, but when she spoke, decisions followed. Behind the scenes, Camilla was allegedly shaping conversations between Charles and Prince William. These weren't casual chats over tea. These were carefully worded discussions, where certain ideas were subtly dropped, and William's positions were gently undermined. Not directly, but enough to shift Charles's thinking. According to several palace sources, this wasn't just about personality clashes. This was about Camilla's long game, one that dated back to the very early 1980s, when she still lingered in Charles's life while he was married to Princess Diana. What made Camilla's strategy powerful was that it rarely looked like one. She wasn't issuing commands or public statements. Instead, she used her access: private dinners, late-night conversations, closed-door briefings to shape how Charles viewed his heir. One historian noted, "She knew how to influence Charles, not through force, but through emotional timing. That's how she created a wedge." And that wedge grew. William and Charles began to have more disagreements behind closed doors, especially around the succession, public image, and modernizing the monarchy. Historian timelines show key moments where Camilla's presence aligned with critical shifts in how Charles responded to William's suggestions. A pattern emerged, and it wasn't missed by senior aides. Still, it wasn't until recent years that this influence was described as manipulation. Royal watchers now say Camilla encouraged Charles to assert authority over William, not out of spite, but to protect what she believed was stability for the monarchy. But to many inside the firm, it looked like a quiet power grab, one that would soon lead to a family confrontation nobody saw coming. Which brings us to the moment everything changed. The one decision Camilla allegedly influenced that would shatter trust, shake Charles, and leave Prince William stunned. Roots of resentment: William and Camilla's early coldness. Before Camilla became queen consort, before the public acceptance, before the press makeover, there was a deep unspoken tension between her and Prince William, and it started from day one. For William, Camilla wasn't just his father's companion. She was a reminder of betrayal, of broken vows, and most painfully, the collapse of his parents' marriage. William had lived through the headlines, the Camillagate tapes in 1993, the interviews, the whispered names. He didn't need tabloids to tell him what happened. He had watched it from the inside. He always carried it, a royal biographer said. He was polite, but distant. He never really accepted her. This distance wasn't imagined. In royal events throughout the early 2000s, William was notably guarded around Camilla. Cameras caught stiff body language, cold exchanges, and at times, absence altogether. Behind the scenes, insiders say William struggled to reconcile Camilla's stepmother role with the fact that she had played a central part in the pain his mother endured. It didn't help that Diana's legacy loomed large. Even after her death in 1997, the public viewed Diana as a tragic figure, a mother who suffered publicly while Camilla remained hidden in the shadows. When Camilla slowly emerged as Charles's partner, William didn't embrace it. He tolerated it, because that's what duty demanded. But privately, that unresolved history created a wall between them. Royal experts say this wall wasn't built on drama, but quiet, restrained emotion. William never confronted Camilla, but he also never leaned in. It was a truce, not a bond, one former palace official shared. Over time, that emotional distance became political distance. William's instincts for reform clashed with Camilla's preference for tradition. Where William saw the future, Camilla looked to protect the structures that helped her survive the firm's harsh scrutiny. That difference, subtle at first, laid the foundation for later manipulations and tensions. And it's that very foundation that would soon crack wide open when Camilla's private influence turned public, and one alleged move against William left the prince not just disappointed, but completely blindsided. The breaking point, the alleged manipulated move. The tension between Camilla and Prince William had simmered for years, but insiders say one decision finally sent it boiling over. According to multiple palace sources, Camilla allegedly influenced King Charles to make a major move that directly undermined William's authority within the family. A decision that left Charles in emotional pieces, and William more isolated than ever. This move was presented as necessary, for the good of the monarchy, as one senior aide phrased it, but the timing, the delivery, and the consequences were devastating. Though exact details remain under wraps, it involved stripping or reassigning a high-level royal duty that had long been associated with William's future role. Sources claim Camilla convinced Charles that the firm needed to tighten control, and that William's independent direction was too risky for the crown's image. The conversation between Charles and William, insiders say, was one of the most painful moments between father and son in years. Charles, already dealing with the stress of balancing royal tradition with modern expectations, was torn. He looked like he was delivering his own execution, one palace insider revealed. He didn't want to do it, but Camilla had pressed the issue until he couldn't say no. When Charles told William, reports claim the king broke down, visibly emotional, overwhelmed by the weight of the decision. He cried, a family staff member recalled, not out of weakness, but because he knew this would break something in William. For Charles, it was a moment of internal collapse, choosing between his wife's counsel and his son's trust. William's reaction, not anger, not immediately, just silence. Then confusion, then what insiders describe as a deep, cutting disappointment. To him, it wasn't just about losing a title or a position, it was about losing something far deeper. His place in the heart of the institution his mother died defending. And this wasn't just a family disagreement, it was the beginning of a shift in power dynamics. A new line had been drawn. Camilla, once seen as a background figure, now stood at the center of the firm's most emotional decision in years. The question wasn't whether she had influence. It was now how far she'd be willing to use it. And from that moment on, William was no longer the quiet, patient heir. What came next was a turning point that would change the way the monarchy moved forward. What William lost? Reputation, role, respect. The fallout from that decision didn't just bruise Prince William, it changed his position inside the palace forever. According to insiders close to the firm, the move orchestrated behind closed doors left William sidelined, stripped of internal sway, and quietly cut out of key planning discussions. This wasn't about a title on paper, it was about real power. And William felt it slip. For years, William had walked a careful line, upholding tradition while introducing modern ideals. But after Camilla's alleged intervention, that balance broke. Multiple aides noted a sharp shift. Invitations to strategy briefings were reduced. William's recommendations were considered but not adopted, and he was no longer looped into talks where future plans were drawn. One courtier said, "It wasn't punishment. It was political repositioning, slow, quiet, and effective." William lost more than a seat at the table. He lost his momentum. Close staff members say William confided in friends that he felt unheard and undervalued by his father, a painful twist, considering how hard he had worked to bridge the generation gap after Diana's death in 1997. For William, this wasn't just personal. It was symbolic. He had spent 2 decades earning public trust, becoming the stable face of the monarchy. And suddenly, that role felt like it was being handed to someone else. What's worse, the move fractured what had once been a growing partnership between father and son. After Queen Elizabeth II's passing in 2022, many believed Charles and William would lead together, shoulder to shoulder. Instead, this decision exposed a crack in that dream. A crack Camilla's influence widened. But William didn't collapse. According to palace insiders, what followed was a shift in his posture. Less cooperative, more assertive. "He stopped waiting for invitations," one aide said. "He started stepping into roles before they were offered." And this was only the beginning. William wasn't going to let his legacy be written by anyone else, especially not someone he'd never fully accepted as part of the family. He was preparing to fight back, not with rebellion, but with result. Charles's emotional turmoil, the tears behind royal stoicism. King Charles III, long known for his calm exterior and composed public image, was reportedly shattered after delivering the decision that alienated his eldest son. Multiple insiders now confirm that Charles cried during the private conversation with William, not out of weakness, but from the emotional wreckage of choosing between his wife and his heir. The situation placed Charles in a near impossible position. On one side, he had Camilla, his lifelong companion, now queen consort, whose counsel had grown increasingly influential behind closed doors. On the other, he had Prince William, the future of the monarchy, the son of the woman the world still mourns, Princess Diana, gone since August 31st, 1997. Sources say Charles was visibly disturbed by the confrontation. He didn't just tear up, he broke down. That moment wasn't about the crown, it was about a father torn in half, one former staffer shared. Charles reportedly admitted privately that the decision was necessary but cruel, believing the monarchy's stability depended on preserving unity at the top, even if that meant creating division just beneath it. It wasn't the first time Charles had cried in relation to William. Friends close to the family recall that even during William's teenage years, moments of tension between father and son left Charles emotionally raw. But this time, the stakes were different. Now, as king, every decision had constitutional weight, and the personal cost was higher than ever. Behind palace doors, it's said the relationship between Charles and William froze in the days after the exchange. Charles reportedly avoided further private conversations, relying on advisors and aides to bridge the silence. He didn't want to escalate the divide, but he also didn't know how to undo the damage. This emotional collapse highlighted something the public rarely sees: that even within the royal family, guarded by tradition, shielded by protocol, there are moments of genuine heartbreak, especially when duty and blood collide. The king may wear a crown, but he also bears the weight of decisions that no father should have to make. But while Charles wept behind palace walls, another force continued moving in silence. Camilla, whose influence had now shifted from emotional support to strategic operator. And if there was any doubt about her power, the next chapter would erase it completely. Camilla's hidden influence, beyond public smiles. Camilla has always kept her cards close to her chest, smiling in public, speaking carefully, avoiding controversy. But those who've worked inside the palace tell a different story. Camilla doesn't raise her voice. She raises eyebrows, makes quiet suggestions, and changes the direction of royal decisions without ever being seen steering the wheel. According to insiders, Camilla's real strength lies in her subtle manipulation of emotional access. She sees Charles every day, shares his private frustrations, and offers carefully timed solutions that often feel like his own ideas. "She plants the seed," one palace source said, "and lets Charles water it." Over the years, Camilla has built a tight circle of trusted advisors, individuals known more for political tact than royal tradition. Former royal staff have suggested that some of the firm's most controversial decisions over the past 10 years carry her fingerprints, including the early tension between William and Catherine during their 2007 split, an event one author controversially claimed Camilla encouraged to test their relationship. Though never confirmed, the rumors remain a permanent shadow. Publicly, Camilla rarely comments on family matters, but privately, she is said to hold firm opinions on the future of the monarchy. She is a traditionalist, one who believes in order, structure, and controlling the narrative. This philosophy often clashes with William's more modern, people-driven approach to leadership. And according to court insiders, she sees William's popularity not as a threat, but as something that must be managed. "Camilla is not a villain," said one royal biographer. "But she's not passive either. She knows what she's doing, and she's very, very good at it." Even critics admit that her rise from the other woman to queen consort is one of the most stunning rebrands in royal history. But that rise came with consequences, and the tension it created is still playing out behind the scenes. With Charles caught in the middle and William quietly stepping back to reassess, Camilla's quiet power now commands more space than ever. She doesn't need a public statement. She already has the king's ear, and some believe his decisions. And while William regrouped and planned his next steps, the nation was about to find out. The monarchy was changing, and not everyone was happy about it. William fights back, a response to the royal shift. Prince William didn't erupt. He didn't issue statements or call emergency meetings. But after that pivotal confrontation with his father, one allegedly influenced by Camilla's private counsel, those close to the palace noticed a change. It wasn't loud, but it was deliberate. William stopped waiting and started acting. Following the incident, William reportedly took a much firmer stance in his public roles. Insiders described his attitude as subtly defiant. He ramped up appearances, leaned harder into charity work, and took on major constitutional responsibilities without waiting for approval. If they wouldn't give him space, one source said, he'd create his own. From that moment on, William's moves were about taking back control. One of the most notable shifts came in his tone. William began speaking more boldly about mental health, homelessness, climate change, and social reform, issues the firm traditionally tiptoed around. This wasn't just royal duty. This was strategic positioning, a way to show the world and the palace that he was no passive heir. He was the future, and he would shape it on his own terms. In just 12 months, William's popularity in national polls began to climb again. Social media engagement surged. Every event, every campaign, every image felt sharper, more personal. He wasn't just stepping into his father's shoes. He was building his own brand of monarchy, younger, louder, and far more modern than anything Camilla's traditionalist circles supported. Publicly, he maintained composure. There were no outbursts, no accusations, but royal experts believe William's rise during this period was a calculated answer to Camilla's influence. He wasn't going to argue, a royal commentator said. He was going to outperform. That's how you win in the firm, with favor, not fury. And it worked. His image began to shift, from restrained royal to relatable leader. It was a clear message. If they tried to push him back, he'd simply step forward somewhere else. And as William rose, something even more surprising happened. The public began to question how far Camilla's reach had gone, and if the crown was truly as united as it seemed. Which brings us to the next chapter, not just what the family thought, but how the entire nation reacted to this unseen battle behind palace gates. The kingdom's reaction, shock, and splintered opinion. When whispers of a secret rift between Camilla, Charles, and William began circulating, the public response was immediate and intense. Across Britain, debates erupted. Was Camilla quietly steering the monarchy from behind the scenes? Had the future king, Prince William, been strategically sidelined? Supporters of Camilla defended her, calling her a survivor who had stood beside Charles through decades of turmoil. She's earned her place, Irises, one royalist argued. She's managing, not manipulating. But critics weren't convinced. They pointed to her history with Charles, the scandals of the 1990s, and the aftermath of Princess Diana's tragic death. To them, this felt like déjà vu, only now it was William who was paying the price. "It's Diana all over again," one woman said in a viral interview. The most emotional moment for many came when reports claimed King Charles cried after delivering the decision that hurt his son. "This is the first time we've seen Charles as a father before a monarch," a commentator noted. William's silence and strength only deepened public respect. As the palace stayed quiet, the people made up their minds. The monarchy's future, once certain, now looked like a battlefield of influence and loyalty, and the story was far from over. The legacy of the rift. What this means for the future. The cracks left by this behind-the-scenes clash didn't just disrupt royal schedules or reshuffle titles. They left a legacy of uncertainty that now stretches across the future of the monarchy. According to royal insiders, the tension between Prince William and Queen Camilla is not a moment. It's a mark, a permanent shift that has already begun shaping how power is shared, and more importantly, how power will be passed. Rumors from within the palace now suggest that William's authority is quietly growing, not through approval, but through necessity. With King Charles III entering his late 70s, the monarchy needs a next-generation leader who reflects modern Britain. And despite past efforts to sideline him, William has become that figure. His popularity with the public, especially among younger generations, continues to outpace that of other senior royals, including Camilla. One court watcher recently noted, "Camilla may hold influence now, but William holds the future." That future, however, is not as clear-cut as it once was. Analysts say the unresolved tension between Camilla and William could complicate long-term planning, especially around succession, public duties, and even inter-family dynamics once Charles is no longer on the throne. Royal commentators point out that this drama echoes deeper themes: power, legacy, and loyalty. Who controls the message? Who earns the trust? Who defines the future of the crown? Those behind the scenes or those in front of the cameras? And while Camilla's influence may have temporarily shaped Charles's decisions, William's response is already shaping how history will view this era. A king may rule today, but the battle for tomorrow's monarchy has already begun. Which brings us to the final point. Not just what this means for the royals, but for Britain itself. A palace torn, a family redefined. The British monarchy is no stranger to scandal, but this one cuts differently. This time, it's not about outsiders or distant relatives. It's not about leaked memoirs or tabloid headlines. It's about the core of the royal family, a queen, a king, and his heir, locked in a quiet struggle over direction, identity, and influence. Charles's emotional breakdown, Camilla's alleged strategic maneuvering, and William's restrained but bold response have painted a portrait of a palace torn in two. The public is seeing cracks that were never meant to be visible. And what's more, they're choosing sides. Some support Camilla for her resilience, her quiet strength, her long road from scandal to royalty. Others stand with William, seeing in him the legacy of Princess Diana, the young prince who has grown into the leader Britain may one day need most. Quotes from royal commentators reflect this moment with striking clarity. The monarchy isn't just being tested, it's being rewritten. This isn't just about Camilla's influence. It's about what kind of royal family the public wants to believe in. The tension between tradition and transformation is more visible now than ever before. Charles, caught in the middle, has shown rare vulnerability. Camilla has shown how far quiet influence can go. And William? He's shown restraint, strategy, and the ability to rise without rebellion. In the end, this isn't just a story about a decision that left a king in tears. It's about a monarchy that once again stands at a crossroads, with a nation watching closely, and a future still being written behind palace walls. This wasn't just royal drama, it was a power shift that fractured the family from the inside. Camilla's influence, William's silence, and Charles's tears mark a turning point. As the monarchy quietly reshapes itself, one question remains: who truly holds the crown's future? The heir or the queen?